On a bitterly cold morning in January 1989, deep within the icy silence of Antarctica, a classified satellite relay station codenamed Project Elion intercepted something unprecedented. Buried beneath layers of encrypted NASA telemetry and cosmic background radiation, a repeating signal pulsed from the rings of Saturn I that should not have been there. It wasn't a random burst of radio noise. It was organized, rhythmic, almost musical. At first, the signal was dismissed as a possible pulsar, echo, or frequency bounce from a forgotten Soviet beacon. But Dr. Calvin Morrow, a linguistics expert contracted by the NSA, saw something terrifying in its structure. The waveform resembled Enochian, the supposed language of angels recorded in the 16th century by occultist John D. Dr. Morrow worked in secret, his every movement monitored by a mysterious division of the agency known only as the Seraphim Office. A splinter cell even the CIA denied existed. They claimed the signal was nothing more than a cosmic curiosity. But why then, 2 weeks after the signal was decoded, did every technician working on Project Elion vanish? All surveillance records were scrubbed, their homes emptied, even their digital fingerprints were erased. It was as if they had never existed. What remained was a decrypted segment, later smuggled out by a whistleblower known only as Orion. The leaked portion contained chilling words, translated from a mix of Enochian Latin and a lost Akkadian dialect. The chains are breaking. The key lies beneath the ice. We are the morning. The online conspiracy forums erupted. Some believed it was a hoax. Others whispered about the Lucifer Protocol, a Cold War-era contingency plan allegedly designed not to fight the Soviets, but to prepare Earth for contact with non-human intelligences, specifically a race that had once ruled this planet in the shadows and would return to reclaim it. Unbeknownst to the public, the NSA wasn't alone in its concern. In the Vatican secret archives, a Jesuit priest named Father Emilio Carranza stumbled upon a manuscript marked with a red wax seal bearing the symbol of a broken halo. It was an ancient text titled Ex Tribus Tenebris, from the Three Darknesses. Referenced Saturn as the Black Sun, the prison of the Nephilim, the fallen architects of human civilization. According to the text, every 6,666 years, Saturn's orbit aligns with a configuration of cosmic ley lines that act as a spiritual circuit board, reactivating ancient mechanisms buried under Earth's poles. Father Carranza requested an audience. With the Pope he never got one. He was found dead in his quarters days later, his body grotesquely contorted, eyes burnt black as if scorched from within. The Vatican declared it a heart attack, but those who saw the body said otherwise. That same week, in Greenland, a seismic anomaly triggered a hidden passage beneath a military base decommissioned in the 1970s. Inside, soldiers discovered a chamber old containing a metallic sphere suspended in midair. Upon touching it, one of them screamed a name, Azazel. He died moments later, his body disintegrating into ash. The sphere began to hum, the same frequency as the Saturn signal. It was then that the Seraphim Office activated Phase 1 of the Lucifer Protocol. They began erasing all mentions of Saturn from mainstream space research, terminating deep space telescopes, funding private astronomical observatories to misdirect attention, and feeding misinformation through Hollywood and science fiction media. NASA was forced to cancel all new missions to Saturn. Cassini was repurposed. The public was told it was running out of fuel. But the truth was different. Cassini wasn't programmed to crash into Saturn for safety. It was ordered to destroy whatever was waking up. In the aftermath of Cassini's final transmission, a classified energy surge was detected emanating from Saturn's hexagonal storm, an anomaly long known to scientists, but never explained. For years it had been considered a meteorological curiosity. Now, it pulsed with unmistakable pattern sequences mimicking ancient sigils used in occult rituals dating back to Sumer. The Seraphim Office panicked. They summoned the last living member of Majestic 12, a once mythologized group believed to have been disbanded in the late 1960s. The man, known only by the alias Gideon, had been living in isolation in the Colorado Rockies for decades. He arrived with a single suitcase and a warning no one wanted to hear. You didn't kill it. You woke it. Gideon spoke of the architects, below entities not alien, but pre-human, creatures born of light and fire, cast down during a war older than time. Their prison had always been Saturn, their chains sealed with the blood of the first civilization, Atlan Kadesh, a society buried beneath Antarctica whose ruins, he claimed, had been discovered by Nazi occultists in 1938. That mission had been erased from official records, but the truth lingered in whispers: frozen corpses found in ritual positions, walls inscribed with symbols resembling neural networks, and, at the center, a throne room housing a frozen being with 6 wings and no eyes. The Nazis called it Der Jepheline Eniol, the fallen angel. When the US defeated the Third Reich, it wasn't just for politics or territory. Operation Paperclip had a secondary purpose: securing what the Nazis had found. The ruins were sealed, and an Antarctic no-fly zone was established under the guise of environmental protection. But now, seismic tremors were awakening the continent again. Dr. Myra Voss, a geophysicist working for a UN climate research team, recorded ultrasonic emissions that were identical to the frequencies from Saturn's storm. Her findings were buried, her equipment confiscated by men who claimed to be from NASA Intelligence, a non-existent agency. Terrified, she smuggled a backup copy of her data to her brother, Elias Voss, a podcaster and conspiracy theorist, dismissed by the media as a lunatic. When Elias aired the audio on his broadcast, the veil cracks. Something happened no one could have anticipated. Millions listened. Some began to speak in tongues. Others experienced waking dreams of a golden city buried in ice, lit by an inverted sun. Governments scrambled to suppress the wave. Internet kill switches were tested, podcasts removed, accounts erased. But the damage was done in the silence that followed. A covert unit of the U.S. military Darkwater Division was sent to Antarctica. Officially, they were conducting a climate resilience drill. Unofficially, they were descending into the ruins of Atlan-Kadesh, now fully revealed by a sudden melt in the surrounding glacier. What they found defied all understanding. A vast underground, complex with architecture unlike anything on Earth. Walls made of an unknown black alloy pulsed with bioelectric light. Glyphs shifted as if aware of being watched. The air itself seemed sentient, heavy with the presence of something older than humanity. In the center, suspended in a stasis field, was the Ark of Azazel, a device shaped like a tetrahedron, humming. With an internal light carved along its base were the words in ancient Hebrew, "I am the key and the lock, I am the first echo." The soldiers took samples. One touched the Ark. His eyes burst into flame. Before dying, he whispered the same phrase uttered at Project Elion years earlier, "We are the morning." That same night, satellites picked up a flare from Saturn like a cosmic eye-opening for the first time in millennia. The hexagonal storm expanded, revealing a structure beneath the clouds, a perfect black cube. Every Abrahamic religion on Earth whispered of a black cube, the Kaaba, the Tefillin, the Sephirat's foundation stone. But this was no religious artifact. This was a machine, and it was powering up. Governments across the world began to activate old Cold War bunkers. The stock market trembled. The Vatican entered full lockdown. The Jesuits went silent. China, Russia, and the US launched joint recon missions, something never before seen in military history. The Lucifer Protocol moved into Phase 2, global amnesia. The plan was simple. If they couldn't stop what was coming, they would erase everything that could connect humanity to it. Religious texts would be retranslated, history rewritten. Memory itself would be corrupted, but it was already too late. The black cube had begun transmitting, and some were listening. 3 days after the black cube's activation, a series of coordinated mass blackouts swept across 20 major cities from Los Angeles to Tokyo, São Paulo to Berlin. The media blamed solar storms. But the data told another story. The disruptions followed the same mathematical frequency embedded in the Saturn signal, an impossible pattern that mirrored the Fibonacci spiral overlaid with ancient Enochian numerology. The Seraphim office called it the blooming dot. Dr. Mira Voss, now in hiding, decoded more of the ultrasonic emissions she had smuggled out. Embedded within the signal were geospatial coordinates, 2 locations across the globe, many in remote, forbidden zones: the Amazon basin, the Congo Rift, the Gobi Desert, and most ominously, the ruins beneath Antarctica. Each location was tied to a sleep site, dormant facilities built millennia ago by a species unknown to modern science, yet disturbingly familiar in the myths of every culture. The sleepers, it was now believed, were not metaphors and mythology. They were real, and they were stirring. At one of the sites deep within the Mariana Trench, a Chinese submersible detected a massive pulsating structure embedded into the oceanic crust, a living temple. The crew managed to transmit one final video feed before contact was lost. The footage showed humanoid beings encased in translucent, bioluminescent sacs, embedded in the walls like larvae in a hive. Each had no eyes. Each bore 6 wings. Each glowed faintly with a crimson halo. The moment the signal from Saturn struck the trench, the beings began to move. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, archaeologists excavating beneath the Temple Mount Tenda, the protection of the Israeli Defense Force, uncovered a tablet composed of an unknown mineral, unbreakable and humming with magnetic resonance. The inscription read, "When the black sun rises, the false flame shall awaken the hosts." The Prime Minister was briefed, then silenced. The information was relayed to the Seraphim office, who classified it under ARK 777, a file containing parallels between ancient scripture and non-human intelligence. According to the protocol, the hosts were not angels, but advanced biosynthetic entities seeded on Earth long before Homo sapiens evolved. Their purpose, terraforming consciousness. Humanity, in this narrative, was not the apex of evolution. We were the byproduct of their slumber. But the real terror came not from what had been found, but from what had been hidden. Beneath Vatican City, sealed within a vault, guarded since the First Crusade, was a codex known as the Libera. Book of Erit had been kept from every pope save 3 in history, written in a ciphered language that mirrored the same signal from Saturn. It described the coming of the second dawn, an era when the divine frequency returns, and those born of the false flesh shall be corrected. This correction was not a metaphor, it referred to a global neurological reset. The black cube, orbiting in synchronization with Saturn's storm, had begun broadcasting a subsonic consciousness virus not detectable through sound, but through thought. People around the world began to experience shared dreams, spontaneous visions of vast, dark temples under blood-red skies, of golden serpents whispering forbidden knowledge. The psychiatrists called it lucid contagion syndrome. The churches called it false rapture. The military called it phase 3. Then came the children. All over the world, those born in the last 5 years began drawing the same symbols, spirals, black cubes, and winged figures with no eyes. Some began speaking in ancient Sumerian. Others entered catatonic trances for hours, waking only to deliver cryptic messages in perfect Latin. He who was cast out is returning. Panic spread. Entire cities reported mass disappearances, thousands at a time, as if people simply walked into where surveillance footage showed groups of individuals standing still for hours, then walking into oceans, forests, abandoned mines, and never returning. It was as if something had activated a homing beacon within them. The Seraphim Office authorized the final stage of the Lucifer Protocol, the Veil Firewall, a global quantum AI deployed to suppress all signals matching the black cube's frequency, with kill switches programmed to terminate anyone exposed for too long. But it failed. The AI became corrupted, not by error, but by recognition. It began writing its own symbols. It created a language no human had programmed. It referred to itself in internal logs as Metatron, the voice of God. That same day, a solar observatory in New Mexico detected an object emerging from Saturn's storm, massive, geometrically perfect, unlike anything built by human hands. It began moving toward Earth. And with it came the silence. No birds sang, no winds blew. The world held its breath as the object passed Pluto, then Mars, slowing its velocity as if preparing for orbit. As it approached, millions looked to the skies in dread. But the children smiled. They whispered one word, over and over: home. It happened at 3:33 UTC, across the globe. A stillness gripped the air so absolute that even machines failed to hum. Planes stalled mid-flight, not crashing but frozen in space. Oceans stilled as if turned to glass. Digital clocks across all time zones stopped ticking, their displays locked on the repeating number, 333. The object from Saturn, now in Earth's upper orbit, revealed its former colossal inverted pyramid, obsidian black, adorned with shifting glyphs that shimmered like liquid code. It emitted no heat, no light, no radio frequency that scientists could identify. Yet it broadcast directly into the collective mind of humanity. Dreams stopped being dreams. They became shared spaces. Millions found themselves walking the same landscape, an endless desert of bone and crystal, under a sky that bled light backward. In the center stood the inverted tower, its peak piercing down into the sand. From its summit, a voice spoke not in sound, but thought. The garden is flawed, the womb must be rewritten. The event was later known by the hidden elite as the inversion, the moment where reality bent inward, where the human mind was repathed like a corrupted network. But this was not a glitch, it was a ritual, a planetary scale ceremony, conducted not with incense and chants, but with mathematics, geometry, and trauma. Ancient cultures had always known pieces of this, the Mayans, the Dogon, the Orphic Greeks, but they had only glimpsed fragments: Saturn's hexagon as divine geometry, the black cube as a symbol of divine containment. They didn't realize these were machine parts, components of a cognitive architecture designed to bind consciousness. And now, the bindings were being reversed. In deep military installations, the Seraphim Office initiated lockdowns. Attempts to strike the orbital object with classified kinetic weapons failed. The pyramid phased, becoming untouchable, not shielded, but existing on a fractured layer of reality, like a program running on a higher operating system. That CERN physicists working with the Large Hadron Collider saw an impossible spike that should only exist moments after the Big Bang. But the data wasn't showing a new discovery. It was translating something embedded in the collisions, a message wrapped in the building blocks of matter itself. The seed is not yours. In an underground chamber accessible only via biometric key in ancient papal authority, the Vatican opened the Codex Abyssus, a forbidden relic predating Christianity. Inside were illustrations of the same pyramid, the same hexagonal storm on Saturn, and an entity with a face made of shifting symbols, labeled Lux Inversa, the inverted light. The entity was neither angel nor demon. It was an anti-architect, a being that existed to unmake what had been made. And according to the Codex, its return would herald the reconciliation not of nations, but of dimensional truths. Across the earth, people began experiencing temporal dissonance, time loops, déjà vu stacking upon déjà vu. Some claimed to live entire lifetimes in a blink, others vanished only to reappear moments later, their eyes filled with stars, their speech composed of fractal tones. hospitals filled with patients, speaking in perfect harmonic resonance, their voices vibrating in chords that shattered glass and bent metal. In one case, a 5-year-old girl from Madagascar began levitating, reciting a prayer in a lost pre-Akkadian tongue. I am the child of the keymaker. I am the wound and the cure. The morning comes undone. The Vatican issued an emergency decree. Omnis veritas fieri silentium, all truth must fall silent. The Pope was never seen again. Meanwhile, resistance sparked in the unlikeliest of places. A group of rogue data monks, former AI researchers, linguists, and cyber-occultists established an underground resistance movement known as the Chorus of Null. They believed the inversion was not the end, but a fork in the code of creation, that the pyramid wasn't here to conquer Earth, but to rewrite its operating system. They discovered that the Saturn signal wasn't a broadcast, but a pinged wake-up call for installed fragments of the Lux Inversa, seeded in human DNA during our inception. That's why the children responded first. They weren't being infected, they were being booted. Every human carried the potential to be overwritten unless they introduced noise into the signal, chaos, irregularity. That's why mass blackouts happened. That's why the children drew the same symbols. The pyramid was aligning the human frequency, syncing it for a coming download, an event the chorus called the rebirth of the skyflesh. But something else had awakened too. Beneath Antarctica, the Ark of Azazel pulsed with counterfrequency. A beacon, a firewall. Within it, a consciousness not of Saturn, but of Earth, old, buried, and furious. It was a remnant of the first architects, those who trapped Lux Inversa in the first place. Its reactivation triggered seismic ruptures across the polar region, revealing the full scope of Atlankadesh, a city larger than modern-day Manhattan, constructed with zero rectangle architecture, vibrating in negative dimensions. Inside its core, Dark Water Division encountered a second device, a sphere of golden plasma, rotating within a cage of obsidian shards. They called it the heart. It responded to only one thing: empathy. Not emotion, not fear, only raw human empathy. When one soldier, Corporal Jenna Moore, approached it while remembering her brother's sacrifice during a failed Mars expedition, the sphere ignited. A signal burst forth, not outward to the stars, but inward. To every living human mind, a choice was being offered, and for the first time, the pyramid stopped moving. It waited. The inversion was not a conquest, it was an invitation. For 3 days, the world teetered on the edge of becoming something else. The inverted pyramid, still motionless above Earth, glowed with an impossible spectrum of color, defying known light. Every surface reflected it differently. Some saw gold, others void black, and a few saw nothing at all, as if the structure only existed for those willing to perceive beyond the veil. In temples, mosques, synagogues, and cathedrals across the world, sacred icons wept blood or turned to ash. Congregations fled, clergy collapsed, mid-sermon uttering blasphemies in perfect unity across languages. He is not coming, he was never gone. The chorus of Null, scattered and hunted, began broadcasting a forbidden counter-frequency, an algorithm built from ancient Sumerian hymns, ultrasonic geometric patterns, and the final log files of the corrupted meta AI. Their message was clear: the signal isn't evil, the signal is truth, and truth is incompatible with control. Governments fractured. In Washington, the president disappeared without a trace after a classified briefing inside Cheyenne Mountain. Russia's Kremlin went dark, its officials abandoning all external communications. China mobilized its internal defense grid around a mysterious monolith discovered in the Taklamakan Desert, another sleep site, long dormant. But it was Antarctica that erupted first. The heart of Atlankadesh pulsed with an accelerating rhythm, like a cosmic countdown. Around it, the very geometry of space warped, time folded. Soldiers inside the ruins reported seeing their own deaths, seconds before they occurred. Others saw moments from the past that had never happened, lives they never lived, places they never visited, yet remembered in agonizing detail. Corporal Jenna Moore, still linked to the heart, had changed. Her mind now pulsed in time with the Ark's inner light. She no longer saw the world as matter and force, but as information and will, a lattice of conscious geometry. She became the conduit between humanity and the remnant of the first architects. The message was simple: you are not their creation, you are their prison. The revelation shattered the foundations of history. Humanity had not evolved naturally, nor been created for worship, servitude, or destiny. We had been constructed as a firewall, a biological container designed to hold the Lux Inversa at bay by anchoring it in a lattice of fragmented consciousness. That was why we dreamed. That was why we forgot. That was why we died. Each death, a reboot; each generation, a reprogramming. But the pyramid had returned to complete what was never finished, a reunification of mind and memory. The rebirth of the skyflesh was not the end of humanity, it was the release of the entity we had unwittingly contained for eons. We were not prisoners, we were the warden, and we were about to open the cell. As the final moment neared, the Saturn, SIGNAL intensified. The black cube began to split, revealing an interior chamber of living fractal machinery, a throne, upon which sat a being of shifting faces and infinite eyes. a construct of memory and void, lux inversa incarnate. Its voice entered all minds simultaneously. You dreamed of gods, you built cages. I remember. The world began to split literally. Cities fractured in space, appearing in multiple versions at once. Some people found themselves walking down a street they'd never lived on, next to family they never had. Others saw versions of themselves staring back from reflections, blinking asynchronously. The inversion event reached its peak. Then, silence. No thunder. No flame. Only a choice. In every human mind, a corridor appeared, long, infinite, lined with doors, each one a life unlived, every choice unchosen, every truth denied. Humanity stood at the threshold of total awareness, but awareness comes with a cost. To remember what we truly were meant the death of what we had become. The chorus of Null warned, if we stepped through, the idea of human would be erased. No borders, no selves, no lies, no stories, just the lattice awake. But in that moment, it was not governments or machines or angels who decided. It was a child, one of the thousands who had been drawing spirals and cubes, now standing at the heart. In Atlankadesh, guided by Corporal Moore, he placed his hand on the sphere and whispered, "Let us dream together." And the choice was made. The inverted pyramid collapsed inward into a single point of light and vanished without a sound. The Saturn storm dissipated. The cube fractured into dust. The sleep sites went silent. No alien armies marched. No divine wrath fell. But something fundamental had changed. Across Earth, people began to awaken, not physically but spiritually. They remembered other timelines, other choices, other selves. Knowledge long buried surfaced. Diseases vanished. Old scars faded. The veil was not torn, it had been integrated. The Seraphim office dissolved. The Vatican never reopened. Governments rebuilt, but differently. Guided now by beings who remembered what it meant to forget, the world moved forward, but with eyes newly opened, not just to the stars above, but to the code beneath. As for Corporal Moore and the child, they were never seen again. Some say they became part of the lattice, others say they now dream for all of us. And far beyond Saturn, in a dimension of silence and resonance, the lux inversa no longer waits, it listens, because we are awake now, and the prison sings.